All right, so I'm Andrew Foley, and for this summer, I decided to do some research on production tracking, try and figure out where we can save some time and eliminate some wasted time throughout the whole process. Um, I started the summer wanting to really focus on reverse osmosis piping, but we ran into some problems with our subcontractors, and so that work was put on hold for a couple of weeks. So I decided to go ahead and do some tracks and concrete paving as well as ceiling grid. And here to the right is the final Excel form. So some of the stakeholders, document systems, and personas. There'd be the architect, which would be HDR, and then numerous different subcontractors. The different stages of documents, we had the final tracking results, which saw on slide 2. That's kind of in a Excel format. There's different quantity takeoffs through Bluebeam, and then like physically printing out the plans from Procore. And then there's also daily construction reports that subcontractors fill out. Say they go on Procore and fill them out. It's basically a mini scope of work of the man hours each day, what area they're working on, and what they got done for the day. It's just kind of like notes for the superintendent to keep records of where everybody was working at. Once the production tracking is completed, it's sent to project management, which would be connected with Walsh as project owner. The project archive would be SharePoint, so it's kind of an internal database or an archive through Walsh. And then also into the estimating database within Walsh. At the beginning of summer, I started this research by sending out this template as a to survey. I ended up getting a hold of estimator at Walsh, one of the engineers on our job site, two of Walsh's engineers, as well as the owner's rep, and then subcontractor as well. And it just kind of goes through and fills out that last kind of like micro flow chart that I just showed of who's the stakeholder, what's their role, how's the workflow completed, what's the basic process, what key data points that you're looking for, as well as why do you care about those data points, and then how are we sharing this with other stakeholders. And all the results were pretty similar. The process seemed to be pretty similar, granted that the maybe a software or two is different, but the overall process seemed to be the same with everyone I talked to. The key data were those 3 important factors that I showed on slide 2, that it was completion percentage, money spent, and then time taken to get the work done of where they're at. And that's the 3 success factors in construction. And so that's kind of what every different stakeholder is looking for, no matter who you are. That's how you make money and be successful. Another thing was the effect on scheduling. I feel like with accurate production tracking, you can create a schedule at a greater accuracy, and you're not going to have wasted days where we said, okay, we gave the subcontractor 4 days because that's what they said, when in reality it's only taking them 2, and they kind of stretched it out. And the another thing that I did notice in these surveys was that once the production tracking is completed, I feel like there's a large lack of usage of this information. So I was the one currently or physically doing this production tracking, those things. The current process of it is I get on Procore and print out these plans. I have to go and field verify the work completed right now, and whether it's just marking up plans saying, okay, this line of pipe was installed for the day, or this section of concrete, and it's not going to be 100% accurate basing off column lines or like a foot or two that's off. But for the most part, with especially large scale works, it's decently accurate. Once I got done with this, I go back to the trailer and I transfer plans from Procore to Bluebeam, and then I transfer the my field data into Bluebeam, and then that way I could scale up the plans and be able to run my calculations. Once I got the calculations completed, then I transfer everything into Excel, and the Excel spreadsheet is a template given through Walsh's SharePoint. And then once I end up completing it, I'll end up sending it back into the SharePoint, and it's kind of just an archive. From the survey results, it's kind of in there. Anybody can see it that's in Walsh, but it's kind of just in there to be in there. It's not used as much as I think it really should be. Some of the pros and cons of this current process. So each step right now is very simple. It's not real complicated. There's no major source of calculation error. Like I mentioned earlier, during field verification, you may a couple feet here and there, but in the long run, it's nothing major. And the current process doesn't rely on anyone else. I'm not waiting on a subcontractor to fill out a DCR so I can figure out how much work they got done for the day, doing everything myself. Another one of the pros was that once I got this done, it's very usable information for me, especially as an intern. For the future, I can look back at this production tracking. And like I said, it's with all those steps, time does add up, especially transferring data from like Procore to Bluebeam or Bluebeam to Excel. It just adds up, and there's a lot of wasted time in there with transferring everything and going from step to step. And then the big con was that this information, there's just a lack of usage. Like I said, it may go into SharePoint, may never be seen again. It may be used, but from what I've picked up, it's not being used nearly enough. My realistic future would be that kind of to combine Procore and Bluebeam and have a software that it's a data storage for plans. It's capable of quantity takeoffs. Subcontractors can fill out their DCRs in there. So if they filled out their DCRs in this ideal software, all they have to do is their iPad that they're filling it out on anyways, highlight their line of pipe, step of me going out, printing out plans, verifying it, and coming back, and then putting it back into Bluebeam. And so that eliminates some wasted time as a general contractor. And in reality, it may only add 2 minutes to the sub at the very end of the day when they fill out their DCR anyways. One of the project engineers on my team came to me with was that production tracking should be tied directly to pay apps. If general contractors bid jobs and take bids based on someone saying, okay, we can get this done in 4 months. Now, if 2 months in, they only have a quarter of the work done, should we have paid them for 50% of their bid, or should we be paying them for 25% of their work completed? They are bidding this job based on them getting this work done in this time frame. So I think if they're taking longer than expected and holding up our schedule, they shouldn't necessarily be paid for the time spent there. They should be paid for the work that they're actually completing. So I think this would be another great way to kind of push the subs to stay on pace and to stay on that schedule. Now, there are some issues with these ideas. Like I mentioned earlier, subcontractors may not really want to take the couple minutes to fill it out. They may be tired of working for the day and say, I just really don't feel like doing this today. They may also not be accurate with their tracking. They could be generous with it, or they could just be lazy and say, yep, we just did this 40 feet of pipe, instead of saying, okay, we actually did 80. So there could be some issue there. But I feel like once they got used to it, it really doesn't add that much time to the subcontractors. And in the long run, it would end up saving general contractors quite a bit of time every single time that this is done. Especially if it's every day, the subcontractor can just continually fill this out. Then the GC can look at it and say, all right, each day they've got this much done, and that almost completes their production tracking. But I really don't think that it would be that hard for the subcontractors to just take 2 minutes of their time each day. Sure, but right now we just have some issues to work out. So thank you for your guys' time. Thank you for everything this summer.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Great job.